This is The Frontline. NBS Frontline.
Well, a very good evening and thank you for tuning in. It's The Frontline tonight as we take stock of politics. Yet another month of real politics. Big headlines. Norbert Mao is trending. He's back at the helm of the Democratic Party, having led the party for 15 years. In Uganda, there was a term called Senkagale of the Democratic Party. Well, what lies ahead for Uganda's oldest party? And what does his win speak to on matters of internal democracy within political parties in Uganda, given the chaos that characterized the whole affair? Was it a free and fair election? Did the Minister of Justice expend justice in the election? That will be one of the questions that we'll be talking about during the course of the show. But today was the reading of the State of the Nation address, where the president highlighted a number of areas reflecting on the trajectory the country is taking. Besides being a constitutional ritual, did the president set the tone for where the country ought to be as Ugandans gear up to the 2026 election? Thank you for joining me. Tonight I'm joined by Honorable Norbert Mao, Minister of Justice and the President of the Democratic Party. I hope I introduced you in the pecking order of titles.
Yes, you did. Thank you. I'm glad to be back on the front line.
What comes first? Is it Minister for Justice or President in terms of weight?
Actually, it is my name which comes first. The titles, you are free to choose whichever.
Well, Mr. Ofono Opondo, former Executive Director of the Ghana Media Center, currently bidding for the seat of the elderly in Parliament. Good to have you. Did you pick your nomination forms?
I keep correcting you. The right title, as a journalist, you ought to use the right title.
Elder persons.
No, MP for older persons. In my case, Eastern Region.
Eastern Region.
Yes, I did express interest, by which you show by presenting a receipt, a bank receipt, that you have paid 3 million nomination fee, non-refundable.
So you've hit the road running already?
I have hit the road running. I was in Teso. I've been to all the 11 districts of Teso. I've been to all 7 districts of Bukedi. Yesterday, as the Baganda would say, Nasonze Busoga. I entered Busoga yesterday.
Is the ground warming up to you, or it's such a...
I want to believe that the older persons in the NRM so far, because I'm now campaigning in the NRM structure, they have warmed to me in a number of districts, majority that I have gone to. Actually, they passed unanimous resolution endorsing me. I hope they will keep to that. But as older people, elderly people, I think they have no reason to change their mind. I'm not a new face, I'm not a new voice in the NRM or even in Uganda's politics. So I think the record, particularly of the last 26 years as spokesperson of the movement, of the election task forces, and of government the last 13 years, speak for itself that any genuine NRM person, even the ones from deep, I don't think Honorable Mao would have an issue not to endorse me.
If he was in the caliber of the older
even
person.
now he's not an older person by the law, but I'm sure his voice is heard. If he speaks in functions, whatever, I'm sure Honorable Mao would want me to to face me or me to face him on the floor of Parliament. Asking him
Amazing.
questions.
Here is Opondo now campaigning. How times change. Very interesting. Well, George Atweta, a member of the Democratic Party who was among the candidates who ran for the DP presidency. Good to have you and a very good evening.
Thank you so much, Kagwanjara, for welcoming me to the NBS Frontline. Greetings to our viewers. It is a privilege and honor to be here this evening.
Well, I'll be talking about your race in a few, but Honorable Mao, the president spoke to the nation today as Article 1011 dictates. What were the key takeaways for you in his address, and how did his speech connect with the reality?
To our viewers, I'm sure you have noticed that the president has changed emphasis over the years. When he wrote the 10-point program, his emphasis was the settling of political questions before dealing with things like the economy. In fact, in the 10-point program, he says that before anything else is done, we need to settle the political questions. Today, you see a marked shift that he de-emphasized politics. He focused more on the basic underpinnings of a strong economy, namely getting our oil out of the ground, standard gauge railway, roads, the investments that will save foreign currency. For instance, when the pharmacies, like the Day Pharmacy, is manufacturing drugs, the pressure on our foreign exchange reserves will be reduced. He talked about coffee and the need for Ugandans to join the money economy. So basically, this was a speech about the economy. And it says something about his thinking that before you enjoy democracy, before you do politics, there are important preconditions that you need. So most Ugandans expected him to talk about what is happening in the politics of Uganda, the fears that people have. I think Ugandans needed a very important reassurance. He said it in general terms, that the security of the country is strong, which obviously is a fact. That is why Uganda is able to project military power even outside its borders.
Aren't you really surprised that the president missed out on your pet subject of transition and reforms?
The first time I raised the issue of transition was at a summit of the Inter-Party Organization for Dialogue, IPOD. And the president said that transition is not the big thing. He believes that Africa should be united. Then I wrote back in a newspaper article and I said, really, transition is critical. Right now, you notice that we are borrowing a lot because, you know, money is shy. And if there are fears, we may not get a lot of foreign direct investment. And so our source of money now is borrowing. So I have been insisting on the issue of transition. It's important. Number two, he said it the next time, and he said, I've been hearing Mao talking about transition. Then later he said, even though he thinks it is not as important, then he said, but I'm happy that he's talking about it. We need more voices talking about transition. In many countries, elections go on, and you hardly even notice that there has been an election. In Ghana, there was an election. It was really not a big deal because Ghanaians generally know that whether you have the NDC of Jerry Rawlings or you have the NPP of Kufuor, every citizen will be guaranteed some minimum. In other words, the economic cake will largely be shared fairly. The political cake belongs to those who have got the political mandate. That one, no one should begrudge a leader who has won an election. If you have won an election, you assign the people who have been part of your campaign team to steer your agenda. So that's
So you're not tiring on calling for transition?
I'll never shut up on talking about transition because it is one issue that keeps Ugandans awake. Why does it keep Ugandans awake? Because we have never seen it before.
Even when the people you're addressing are expressing cold feet towards you?
I don't think the president is expressing cold feet, but I think the president doesn't like to appear like it is an issue which should cause panic. It is important that the conversation continues. Ugandans have never seen peaceful change of government, and anything that makes that prospect to be far-fetched should worry Ugandans.
Thank you. George, what did you pick from the president's speech, and did it blend with the reality?
Personally, I found it to be far from the reality that we are experiencing as citizens. He talked about a number of roads which are supposed to be worked on, but I missed hearing him talk about the road network within our city. I missed hearing him talk about the existing roads which are in a very sorry state. The government of the day is now ending. Their main program regarding lifting the livelihoods of Ugandans was the parish model. A number of trillions have been spent. But I wished to hear the president talk about the impact. Because next
Did you ever expect him to strike the right note for you?
I wished to, but I didn't see any regarding that. And the biggest, to me, the biggest thing that we expect is the livelihoods of Ugandans. And the formula which government from the start after 2021 elections has been focused on was this parish model, that it would bring thousands of Ugandans, millions, and lift their levels of income. And to me, it has failed. And I've been asking questions to see from all quarters of society, mostly government, to give us like a clear picture of what impact has it had.
Thank you. Thank you. Some analysts have described the president's address as the usual rhetoric. As someone who knows the workings of the state, did the president strike the right chord in your opinion?
Well, I would love to go to try to evaluate what the cynics say, because they say so all the time. The president is damned if he doesn't, he's damned if he does. Like what my brother here, I don't know if you got what he was saying. First of all, let's go to what Honorable Mao started with, transition. The main first point was national security, stability, and tranquility. If we have that, And no one brings political indiscipline, whether during election or after elections. We shall have a tranquil elections where the true voices of the voters will be reflected. That in itself will be a transition. And if, like Honorable Mao wishes to see a change of government, a change of a president from one to another, when Mr. Yoweri Museveni is defeated in an election, we have said that many times, he will hand over. If you look at the group in parliament today, in elective politics, appointed leadership in Uganda, you need to be very disingenuous not to see that there's actually a transition taking place by generation, by outlook, by class stratification.
Yeah, but
Transition is taking place.
when you look at
Except if you want Mr. Museveni to win an election and then hands over. Or you want NRM to win an election and say, because we have been here for 40 years and the DP has not been in the government since 1954, then now we give them. Maybe, unless they talk about transition in that sense. But to us in NRM, transition is actually underway. And if you are not keen, the bias of transition is actually leaving you.
Ugandans are keen and very anxious about the forthcoming elections. Do you think the president tackled the big questions surrounding elections, especially in terms of the hygiene of elections?
Just have stability, have tranquility, have security for everyone, which will guarantee the freedom of people to campaign and to vote the people they want. So in that sense, the president spoke to what we should do to have the election we want. If you go outside that, certainly the arms of the state may tackle you and will tackle you.
What was new in the president's speech?
What is new in the Bible? If people have not done the basics, there is no harm repeating the same message. And what is the message? Honorable Mo just told you. What do we need to do to decisively lift the majority of Ugandans who are still living hand to mouth? That even when you put free education, parents will not see the value of sending children to school. Parents will not see the value of buying scholastic materials. Parents will not see the value of buying school uniforms. Parents will not see the value or even create time to go and interact with the teachers. And therefore, you need that economic, what we call socio-economic transformation. And Honorable Mao has elaborated and said the president gave the key pillars that in the NRM assessment will lift. And indeed, the president said from 1986, the only issue is he did not put the timelines. But from 1986, we are now almost 40 years. If you go checking how many roads we have done, and what have been the impact, what are the impacts of those roads, where those roads have been done? What have been the impact of where electricity or energy has been extended? What has been the impact of where schools could be primary, could be secondary, could be vocation? What are the impacts of the things that we have done over the last 40 years?
Ordinarily, wouldn't you expect the president to be categorical on issues like human rights? We're living in a time where there are kidnaps. We're living in a time where there is indiscipline on the part of the army. We're living in times where...
I'm not aware of the discipline on the part of the army. But this speech was of the president of Uganda, was not yours.
Okay.
And so
I thought it was for Ugandans.
No.
I am a Ugandan.
I am saying this speech was for is the speech of the president and his government. He's the leader of the government, how he sees his government and the direction wants to take it.
So who was he addressing?
You wait when you're the president of Uganda, then you can overhype artists, you can overhype a school which does not have a latrine. That would be your speech. But as far as the president of Uganda is concerned, this was his speech addressing Ugandans. Now, I don't think by not emphasizing the indiscipline of the army as you would say it, does not mean that he is not aware of incidences of the so-called indiscipline. But is indiscipline of the army the main posture of this army?
Yeah, but what is the essence of the State of the Nation address?
The State of the Nation address is to give you a balanced view of really where the country was yesterday, where the country is today, and where you hope to take it, where you want to take it. In my view, the president discharged that function well.
So he was spot on.
The spot on is your word. But I'm telling you, he balanced for a genuine person. For example, let me ask you, when the president was quoting World Bank, IMF, our own national statistics, the recent household survey, the recent population census, I would want you to counter the president's statistics, figures, with yours. If the president said life expectancy is now 63, in fact, the last census is saying 68. Do you have a contrary opinion? If the president is saying literacy has moved from 45 to 80, what is remaining is skilling Ugandans, especially the young people. Are you disagreeing that literacy has not improved? Are you disagreeing that safe water coverage has not improved? Are you disagreeing that electricity has not been expanded? Are you disagreeing with the kilometers of tarmac road that the president talked about? And when he mentions those, it does not mean he is not aware, your road in the Rwanda won't be done. He's telling you what he has done and what is in the plan. Some of the things that are in the plan could have been in the plan since 10 years ago. And the president ties it up and says, resources.
I think that's what makes his speech rhetorical. No wonder some people chose to call it rhetorical.
Well, they are free to say so. Don't you know that the majority of the world believes that there is a God? But there are also those who say God doesn't exist. And we live. With those of you who say God exists, and those of us who don't believe that he does. So, this is the nature of the democracy. Others will say the president is just rhetoric. Are you saying Uganda today is not safer than Uganda of yesterday? The areas you are referring to, the instances of human rights abuses you are referring to, notwithstanding. Aren't you able to drive from here now to Yumbi without state functionaries stopping you and robbing you? Aren't we able to drive from here to your Mulanda and me also to my Mulanda without anybody stopping me? Are you saying the security situation is worse simply because somebody is squatting in a prison cell? Maybe a political leader is squatting in a prison cell, and is that person squatting?
I think that's critical.
Is that person
the rights of one person?
No, are they squatting in the prison cell outside the law, or they are squatting in the prison cell within the framework of the law?
Well, thank you. Honorable Mao, you clinched a first term as the president of the Democratic Party amidst chaos. Is this an election you would proudly write home about?
Simon, DP has a constitution. And the way the election was projected is as if every minute of the process was chaos. And I don't think that is necessarily true. But we are in a kind of society where people like sensationalism. Let me tell you, from the moment the process started, our detractors started denouncing the process. First, they said the party doesn't exist. It has been captured by NRM. It has been merged with NRM. It has been sold. And then when we announced that elections are open and people should express interest, there was a lot of excitement. People came with crowds and drums and music and convoys. And people started campaigning. We look at how elections are held under DP Constitution, because the major question was that interested parties were the ones who organized the elections. Now, that is our Constitution. And it works for us. And it has worked that way since 1954. The fact that you may not like Norbert Mao does not mean that you now need different rules. You can compare it to the elections of the popes over the years. Every voter is also a potential candidate. And that is their constitution. It works for them. And it produces results. When we start elections under DP, we are not like the NRM where, all members come, they line up, and so on. Our elections are supposed to start from the villages. But to be honest, our membership register has been corrupted over the years because of our opposition, coalition politics, alliances. Some of our so-called chairpersons have also been working for a party like NUP, for instance. So we needed to be very strict about who is a genuine DP. And that sort of delayed the process. We needed to have real quality assurance.
Honorable Mao, for the benefit of our viewers, did you win fairly and squarely? Yet the numbers really tally differently.
That is a narrative that those who lost the elections are peddling. I don't blame them, because accepting defeat is the hardest thing in the world. I've never had anybody taking it easy. But as a man who has both won and lost elections, I understand that. But let me tell you that when we announced the process, some of our branches discouraged people from registering in the register book of the party. In other words, the conduct of some of our prominent leaders, especially some of our members of parliament, mainly those from the Buganda region, where they have been peddling a narrative that NRM is untouchable, and that to win, you must demonstrate that you are the one who hates President Museveni the most, and you hate the NRM the most. So that's really the currency, what you would call obuchai. That is the main political currency now. So when you stand up to talk, you must first unleash curses at President Museveni, his family, at NRM. Then you get cheers and people will salute you as a liberator. But in reality...
Did you say it's most prevalent in Buganda?
Yes. Yes, that's the reality, which is a reversal of what was. Because previously, it was the North which was the hotbed of the opposition. And now it is Buganda. Remember, Dr. Semogerere in Muganda stood for elections, and here he was accused of being a bogeyman. He was accused of being a Trojan horse for Milton Obote, and he performed very badly. In that same election, President Museveni only got 13% for instance, in Acholi. So, in a situation where you have those who claim to love DP, but they are spending all the time. You have been hosting them anyway. If you really want to build a party, do you go around telling prospective customers of the party that the party I want you to love has actually been sold? It is being led by somebody who was given money in exchange for the party. That the other day I heard some people I thought were serious saying President Museveni bought for me a house. They do not know the mortgages I'm paying. Now, with those kind of leaders, I'm not surprised that having spent all their time undermining the party and dividing the party, when the time came to now contest for a position, they realized that they were isolated. If you came to the delegates conference, you would find that the people who were the most abusive were from the central region. The people who were most unruly, they were from the central region.
Why do you want to play that card all the time?
It is not a card, I'm just reporting.
Okay.
We had a program. We had a program of anthems. The Ugandan anthem was sung, East African anthem, then the Ankole anthem. Out of the blue, we had the Buganda anthem. You know, so the rest of the country started wondering what was going on. And then some of the extreme elements from Buganda here were saying this is their grandfather's party. In other words, if you are not a Muganda, you are an imposter. And as if DP is one of the clans of Buganda. DP is a national political party. So actually they were my campaign managers.
So you want to say that you are swimming against the tide of Buganda sentiment?
You would say provincialist sentiment, which is headquartered in Buganda. Even those who genuinely wanted to vote me out, when they reached Mbarara, they saw what was going on and they realized, will this party still be a Ugandan party if these kind of people who were contesting against Mao win the elections? There are genuine issues on which they could tackle me, actually. There were genuine issues.
Oh, well, thank you. George, you contested in the race.
Yes.
Do you concede defeat?
I expressed interest in serving the party, being a leader. I participated in a nomination process, I looked for votes, but eventually I couldn't appear among those to be voted for. As regards whether I should concede defeat or not, for me, I believe...
Do you concede defeat?
If you were not among the contestants, how do you concede defeat?
Okay, you were a participant.
Yes, I was.
Do you take this election to have been free and fair?
The way it was managed and what came out, I wouldn't wish to call it a free and fair election.
Did Mao win irregularly?
The conditions under how he emerged victorious, I wouldn't say it was a free and fair election. Maybe you could give me time to explain the circumstances under which he emerged victorious. When the roadmap came up, there were issues, and I would not want to agree with him that they were only from Uganda. Because even in Western Uganda, there were issues which were coming up. Yes, we are having an internal election. How can it be credible? How can it be inclusive? And there were suggestions that were coming from party members. One of the issues which was being raised was a way of how we can get an independent internal elections management committee. According to our structures, on the day of election, during the delegates conference, names are proposed by the delegates. But what happened in Mbarara is that only one name was proposed, and the chairperson couldn't allow another name. So what happened is that the person who had been prepared before, and that brought issues. The President General might have been popular, but you see, if you are popular, you leave room for fair competition.
So there was collusion from the camp of the President General with the organizing team of this election?
The failure to allow the delegates to have a say on who would preside over the election was one of those very contagious issues. And when that was done, it brought confusion. The president has said that in 1996, when the late leader of the party contested and had IPFC with UPC, he didn't get reception within Uganda. But as leaders, we are not just leaders on our own. We have sentiments of the people we lead. And the decisions we make, sometimes we have to be careful. How are the people taking it? 1996, we all know how Buganda region suffered under UPC government. So where the people, the DP in Uganda, were they willing to go with the party president when he was working with UPC?
Thank you, George. I'll get back to you. Do you get a sense that the virus that has been affecting NRM for long, about failed internal processes, has now entered DP and it's breaking them apart?
Well, first of all, President General here said, and this is a fact anyway, DP was born in 1954. This NRM was born in 1981. But this particular political party, NRM, was born 2004, 2005. So clearly, NRM is much younger than DP. Which...
But you told DP bad manners.
Which internal elections of DP, particularly which delegates conference of DP, has ever gone smoothly? Which one?
Hitherto, at least there's been some bit of sanity.
You know, the one of 1980, let us start from the one of 1980, which Semugere allegedly won. You know, Lule was prevented from coming. And as a consequence of that, Lule joined with the leader of UPM to found NRM. When NRM triumphed in January 1986, DP leaders agreed to be co-opted to work with the NRM in that famous gentleman's agreement of Vudo na Bingo. As a consequence of that, Dr. Paul Kawanga Semogere largely moved a lone man throughout his tenure in NRM, 1986 to 1996. Even the bringing in of the other DP leaders into that government was out of the magnanimity of the leaders of NRM at that time. The Sebana Kizitos were left out. When Semogre, I'm now telling you what is on record. When Semogre was asked to name DP leaders who would want to come within the government, he left those people. As a consequence, DP began a major disintegration. You remember, during Semogre's tenure as DP leader, although we are not running a multi-party system, You remember there were two factions. You remember DP Mobilizers group of Michael Kagwa, the ones that were having demonstration at State Square every other time. What was Waziri Twaula? Tap dialogue. You remember it? By the time of 1996, when Semogore walked out of NRM, he walked out alone. He left the other former DP members in the cabinet. And that partly explains why those DP members, generally leaders, did not follow him when he went to stand as a presidential candidate in 1996.
Right.
The consequence of which, when he discovered that in Buganda he would not get a sailing, he had to go to join, so to speak, for lack of a better phrase, he joined the devil incarnate, the UPC group of Cicero Guard, of Rwanyarare, of Okelo, and others. And that's why Honorable Buma was telling you the only place you could get refuge and support was Teso, Northern Uganda, West Nile, mainly on account of UPC, but also on account of the war afflictions that NRM by that time had failed to completely win that war, to resolve that conflict. And people transferred their anger over that war onto NRM, onto ULM7, the 13% Honorable Mao is talking about. Since that time, the only election in DP which never caused a major split was the coming in of Sebana Kizito. I don't remember if it caused any major split in DP. But it did not bring back, Sebana's win did not bring back the DP leaders, DP members who had migrated. Honorable Mao's own first election, you know what it caused? And I dare say, since Honorable Mao's win, which was highly contested along tribal sectarian lines, which he's referring to, DP has been unable, and I want to say Honorable Mao as the leader has been unable to prevent the crumbling of the party.
So do you think that this could have been the last nail in the coffin of
I don't think it is the last nail. He now has an opportunity to step back and rebuild the party by either compromising even on some principles with the people who disagree with him strongly, or in the alternative, recruiting completely new people, particularly the young people. Because Honorable Mao has a good tongue. Honorable Mao is well exposed. I don't think there's anybody who finds Honorable Mao unpersuasive if you listen to him. But I think in DP, there are people who are unwilling to listen to Honorable Mao's persuasive tongue. Why? Because as he himself has admitted, and these people they are not shy about it. They think this is their thing. And you have had them.
And some think he's a sellout.
You have had the ones who are not even DP, but previously associated with the DP, they are now in NUP. You have had them, the language they use. Recently, one of them said, if there is any Muganda who is still supporting NRM and Museveni, must be only two things. Either their heads are not working, their brains, or must be extremely stupid. That's what he said. Chagulan is a member, a previous former member of DP. That's what he said. And what Mama is referring to. The Rurumis, I think they are a little modest version of Chagulan. And therefore, I don't think they are willing to come to a compromise with Honorable Mao. That's because which organization would want to change electoral rules on the day you want to vote? As if they do, unless they are saying, I've not been following the internal things of DP, particularly the election, unless they are saying they had petitioned for a review of their constitution with regard to election management, and Honorable Mao was obstinate.
Well, Honorable Mao
Did not want to listen to them. But obviously, from the optics, first of all, the people who disagree with Mao would have gone any length to spoil the party, to spoil the elections, so that Mao gets off tainted. And therefore, I think it has been their stratagem all along.
Honorable Mao, we want to take a very short break, but
to provoke a fracas, and therefore the optics of seeing people physically carrying away ballot boxes after voting, aided by the police. I don't think anyone can say that election can be credible when people are carrying away ballot boxes, with the votes in. You would be sincere to say.
So, in your opinion, did Mao win or he rigged?
I think he won under those conditions.
We'll take a break. Good evening.
NBS Frontline. A smile that is white, fresh and beautiful is a smile to be proud of. Discover new Colgate White and Fresh for the whole family. High quality and an incredible price. Are you ready to experience the ultimate in live events?
Can you sit? Can you sit?
From local to global, we bring you the most exciting events 24/7. Stay informed with live breaking news.
Habemus Papam.
Keep in the know of what's happening around you and beyond. NBS Live. Live and filtered and missable. Exclusively on Afro Mobile.
Here's your chance to win school fees for your child for a whole year. Just pay school fees using Momo. Dial *165 *80#. Select option 2 for school pay. Select option 1 to pay school fees. Enter the student number and amount and approve the transaction. You are now entered the draw to win school fees.
In a world where every cough and flu feels like a distraction, making you feel uneasy, where every cough and flu interrupts your day, making you lose concentration, and where every cough and flu keeps you up at night. Introducing Genacough DS Herbal Syrup, used to treat cough, flu, sore throat, allergy, and asthmatic coughs instantly. Genacough DS Herbal Syrup is made from our local herbs approved by National Drug Authority and is ideal for both children and adults. Genacough DS Herbal Syrup is a product of Gena Herbal Limited, the makers of Covidex, available in all pharmacies countrywide. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice. Gena Herbals, the home of safe herbal medicines.
The national budget is out, but what does it really mean for your business, your wallet, and your future? This budget month, Next Media puts you at the center of the conversation with TV talk shows, radio, social media reels, and business spotlights. Banks, SMEs, and NGOs don't just react. Be part of the story. Book your space today. Partner with Next Media and reach millions.
What does it take to own your moment? It takes preparation without limits.
Mommy, what happens when I don't brush my teeth? When you don't brush your teeth, they will rot and they will fall out. Wow, Mommy, how do you know all about this? Mommy, are smarter than TikTok. Thank you, Mila.
It takes knowledge without boundaries. At FiberNet, we work backstage so you can take center stage. Get connected to the most reliable and affordable unlimited internet by visiting fibernet.co.ug or call 0800 310 310 to get started. FiberNet, the unlimited internet experience.
This is a short story about you. No, I don't mean that this is you. No, this is not you. This is me. Of course, this can't be you. This can't be you because you think these things of touring Uganda are for rich people. You think these touring things are for people celebrating anniversaries. This can't be you. Because you think to enjoy wildlife, you have to first put in a leave request at work. Chimpanzees are just a 30-minute boat ride from Entebbe. And you get a chance to feed, name a chimpanzee, or even adopt a chimpanzee. You can even actually use this as a rehearsal to see if you can really provide food for another living thing. God gave us a beautiful country on a budget. We don't have to fly there, we are already here. This is ours, uniquely ours.
Welcome to Finns Medical University, the only specialized health sciences university in East Africa. Fully licensed, NCHE accredited, and approved for a charter, Finns is your trusted path to a brighter medical future. Now accepting applications for degree programs in Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery, Pharmacy, Lab Technology, Weekend Nursing and Midwifery, Medical Education, Tutorship, Diplomas in Nursing, Midwifery, Clinical Medicine, Pharmacy, Lab Technology, and certificates in Nursing, Midwifery, Pharmacy, and a bridge course. With state-of-the-art labs, a conducive learning environment, and real clinical practice, your journey to excellence starts here. Finns Medical University, saving lives, our passion.
NBS Frontline.
Well, it's still the Frontline as we take a digest on the just concluded DP Delegates Conference that culminated into an election that brought Norbert Mao back for the fourth term. Honorable Mao, 3 terms in office, a very turbulent tenure for you, dominated by a lot of suspicion and splits. What more do you need to add to DP?
It's my duty to add what the members want. You have got to realize that ever since I took charge of this party, I have been very unfairly treated by the media, like yourselves.
Yeah.
You talk about chaos. In NRM primaries, there are even dead bodies. Do you remember the primaries of Mwesigwa Rukutana, where a dead body dropped in Ntungamo?
So it can only be comparable to that.
I think if you don't look at the context of the whole of Uganda, you'll find that actually DP Delegates Conference was quite tame. You see what's happening, what in Najana Nkumbi. Do you remember the chairman of FDC running for his life, climbing over a wall and rushing breathless on Entebbe Highway, pleading with a random driver of a car to get him out of the area? I've never had you roast them here. But when it happens to Mao and DP, you really put us in the hottest part.
Yeah, because you're the benchmark of true, transparent democracy.
Then why don't you first start by
praising?
And
you failed on that mark.
Why don't you first start by praising us?
You were hitherto.
No, it is not hitherto. I'm simply telling you, we are dealing with situation we did not create. If you have a candidate like our Bukoto Central MP, who I actually warned when we had the National Council in Soroti, I told him, excuse me, sir, you are not qualified to be president. The position of president is a very serious president, and you cannot compromise on constitutional requirements. It requires that you should have been an active member for 10 years. You should be a person who, you know, he was a civil servant, and just a few years before he went to run for parliament, he had to resign.
Yeah, but nevertheless, he was paying his annual subscription to the party. He had membership cards from way back.
Simon, the constitution says 10 years.
Yes.
And you should know that in Mbale, even Honorable Mbide wanted to be vice president. He was disqualified. He's not the only one. Now, when anyone makes it appear as if, you know, someone was deliberately targeted, DP is not going anywhere. Unless you are on some mission which nobody knows, you can wait. Why do you have to kill the party because you must be on the ballot? And then, when you come to the delegates conference and you start saying no Sebamala, no elections, what do you expect us to do? We are the leaders of the party. Hundreds and hundreds of delegates have traveled from all over Uganda. They want to have a delegates conference. They expect to choose their leaders. And it was important that order be restored. Actually, the incident you saw was quite mild. I was expecting worse, given the militancy of the mobs. They brought many.
Who brought the mobs?
The one who brought most of the mobs is our Bukoto Central Member of Parliament. Remember, he wrote on various social media pages that if he's not on the ballot paper, it will be bloody. And then he also boasted that he has the backing of powerful people. He said he will sit somewhere and just press buttons and no one will touch him. He even said, do you see the army anywhere here? In other words, he was very sure that, you know.
He was spoiled for a fight.
Yes. But I wasn't born yesterday, Simon. I know politics. And the people I'm dealing with, I know them from A to Z. It was therefore important that the main purpose of the delegates conference takes place. Now, what OO talks about, that people carried away ballot boxes. The ballot boxes needed to be secured. And you will see that when the ballot boxes were moved, in the full glare of cameras, and there was no stopping, the other candidates for president were there as the counting continued. The videos are there. Some people were spreading rumors that the votes were brought to Kampala and counted from Kampala. It is not useful to try to demonize the process. We could have definitely had a more peaceful delegates conference, but I can tell you, those who were threatening violence are now playing the victim.
Yeah, but in the face of your victory, I expected you to be graceful and maybe congratulate your opponents. Instead, you came out and said, I was surrounded by enemies. That was a loaded statement.
That was the campaign.
And not conciliatory.
In my speech, before being sworn in, I was actually very conciliatory. But you will see my conciliatory nature in the next few months. And you have seen how tolerant I am. Do you think there are many leaders really who are as tolerant as I am? You tell me which party leader would sit the way I sat there and tolerate the kind of things that was going on. When I talked about being surrounded by enemies, I was speaking the truth. But I was also saying that in politics, you focus on those who are for you first. Then after you have won, then you reach out to those who are not for you. Any politician knows that. You cannot campaign to whom it may concern, because the time for campaigning is limited. So if I know that so and so is not for me, why do I waste time talking to them? I first of all consolidate those who understand me, and after I have won, then I reach out the way I've been doing.
There are worries that your win this time is further consolidating your marriage with the NRM. And what guarantee do you give the country that this is not another journey of DP into the NRM?
The most important thing is that this delegates conference and the election, particularly for the president, was also a referendum of the issues in the party. If the delegates, the vast majority, thought that this cooperation agreement is such a bad thing, there's no way they would have touched me with a 10-foot pole. So that, I hope that's a clear message. Those who don't like the way we are leading, it's really too bad. But I hope they understand that the extremism, which we really wanted to save the party from. We wanted to save the party from extremism. We wanted to save the party from politics of unnecessary hatred. We wanted to show that where Uganda is right now, we need bridge builders.
So it's augmenting your relationship with the NRM. You're still there.
We believe that all Ugandans should actually find common ground. You are talking as if in Uganda we only have NRM and DP. That's very unfair to Ugandans. Uganda has patriots in all the parties, and I think those patriots should come together so that we shape the future. That is what Norbert Mao stands for, and that's why I was saying my job is building bridges. Now, those who came to say no to cooperation agreement, they should have actually won. If that was the issue, that was the most important. So they hyped it up.
So the agreement was your winning streak?
It was not my winning streak, but the majority of the citizens understand that where Uganda is, you cannot promote political untouchability. That if you have any working relationship with the NRM, then you are the devil incarnate. You cannot have that kind of politics. Uganda would have been a lot better if our leaders were talking. 1966 would not have happened.
Well, thank you.
If Dr. Bote had spoken to the Kabaka.
Thank you. George, do you imagine the return of Mao is a blessing or doom for DP?
Now, when the roadmap started, our interest was that we could have a credible, transparent internal process, because that process would determine the after period of the election. How the election happened, there are those who feel they were unfairly treated.
Including yourself?
Within the process. Now that he has leadership, it might be difficult to bring them on board. As you say, this delegate conference was like a referendum on the direction of the party. The president's leadership in the last 5 years, one of the critical points has been the cooperation agreement with the NRM. In his speeches, those who have heard him, he says it started with a phone call with the president of the country. We are now talking about political parties, not kingdoms. Dialogue between political parties is a result of the involvement of the organs of the very parties. His resistance to me has been not involving the party organs of the Democratic Party. I say this because I happen to be a member, I have been a member of the NEC, and I know the processes that led to the cooperation agreement. When we were told that he had signed an agreement with the other people, it was in July, we met in December. We wanted to discuss this, and so that we can have a position. but that very agreement didn't appear. We again met in Guru, it never appeared. We again met in Mbare, it never appeared. It only appeared this year when there was a discussion, but it was in March when we were having NDC in
So do you have a clue of what is in this agreement?
Yes, yeah. As of now, there is a clue, but it came after like 3 years. Now, party direction is shaped through party organs. But if party organs have not conclusively discussed party decisions, it becomes unclear how the party is moving.
George, there is also a school of thought that some of you who contested against Mao were just in the race to further legitimize his candidature.
That is a good question. Those who didn't contest, they left open spaces for people to go unopposed. There are some of our colleagues who contested because this was like a last resort of engaging. Our hope in Mbarara was to see whether there was, to see, and we looked forward to a transparent process. Because if the process was transparent, then whoever led would take the party forward.
Yeah, but was it foolhardy of you to imagine that there would be a transparent process under Mao, whom you've accused of working with the state?
The other option, in my opinion, was worse. And as he says, what I see going forward, I see a strengthened relationship, working relationship with NRM. My only worry, my only wish is that if you are a leader of a party, you need the party behind you. Because you are not expressing your views. The party president has been very eloquent about transition talks. But you see, you are not talking on your own. And his efforts, in my opinion, to bring on board the party has not been a success. Even when the cooperation agreement was brought to the National Delegates Conference in Mbarara, when it was brought by the Secretary General. Then one person came and seconded. There wasn't any discussion. So the way it was endorsed and approved by NDC without any discussion from the National Delegates Conference also because if it being endorsed is one thing, but is it owned by the members? We met in Mbarara in Ruti. Ruti is the home of our former party leaders, former national chairman, Boniface Byanyima. At some point back, so many DP members left, but he stood ground. Had he not stood ground, I don't know whether we would have met in Mbarara. So, as discussions go around about engaging and not engaging, the late Mzee Boniface Byanyima has a lesson to teach us as members of Democratic Party.
Thank you. Where do you see the future of Uganda's oldest party with this thing called the cooperation agreement?
I did not follow in detail the cooperation agreement. I haven't followed in detail the delegates conference, how it is convened, how it is run. Unless they are accusing Honorable Mao of manipulating the process. Because if you say that the cooperation agreement was brought 3 years later to your delegates conference in Mbarara, this recent one, it was moved, seconded, and discussion and adopted, matters closed. So if you were the majority, what prevented you from blocking it? If what you are describing is correct, is accurate, and Mao should have fewer members in the delegates conference, it should have been blocked. First of all, its presentation and adoption without debate. So in my view, I think in that case, therefore, maybe in your delegates conference, Honorable Mao has an overwhelming number, which is now reflected also by the margin of his win. 900 something votes?
Yeah, he got 969.
To 500 or what?
Lulume got 339.
300, yes. So it's more like maybe they gave up the fight in the delegates when this item was moved. Maybe they saw the number.
Yeah, but there is also a contest on numbers that the tallies do not really add up.
I don't know the total number of the delegates.
Do you want to speak to this? In just a second. In just a second.
No, he's saying that it should have been blocked. The meeting was led by the chairperson of the meeting, and he would determine who would speak, and he would also determine closing a subject.
Okay, I thought you wanted to talk about the numbers. Do the numbers add up?
The numbers
of the delegates
who voted. When the process is not clear, when what you saw of carrying ballot from one place to another,
for security,
then it brings in issues.
Okay,
no. I'm starting with at the time the cooperation agreement was presented as an agenda item.
Yes.
It was moved by someone and seconded, and according to you, it was quickly adopted without allowing debate. At that point, the ballot boxes were not yet there.
Yes, yes.
What prevented the majority of you, or some of you, who were contesting the content or the direction of the party on the basis of that cooperation agreement, what prevented you from stalling debate on it and its passage and adoption at that point?
You get permission from the chairperson of a meeting. If he has not allowed you, you can't do nothing. Maybe if you are suggesting that members should have risen up and started fighting.
But see, this is very interesting because Honorable Mao is now in a catch-22 situation, I think. Because Honorable Mao has been in the group on the side of people who say 2 terms are adequate for a political leader. I'm curious to find out from him why, for a political party, those 2 terms shouldn't apply.
You want to pick it from him? Yes, Honorable Mao.
There's a difference between the term limits for a president of the country who manages the state and a leader of an organization that wants state power. You don't put term limits on a struggle. I'm a leader of a struggle, and I don't think you can put term limits on a struggle. You imagine if in the bushes of Luwero there were term limits.
No, the people went to the bush.
We are also in the bush.
The people went to the bush did not believe in term limits. That's why when they came here and we imposed on them, when it was convenient, they changed it. And for them,
so he preaches water.
Yes, yes.
We believe in term limits for president of the country.
For them, they even believe that you could be killed before you actually achieve the struggle. Now, Honorable Mao, where DP in particular copies some of its major tenets is Western European democracies, German, UK. In UK, when a leader of a political party loses an election, quite often, just losing one election, you get out, they bring a new team to lead the party. And that's also a struggle. And so is German, and so in many other European countries. So how come that particular etiquette, if I may call it?
So in essence, you're saying Mao is stuck with DP, not DP stuck with NRM.
Yes, you don't copy that one. Because in Europe, when you lose an election, you give way for a new person to hopefully take a new direction. The second aspect is, Honorable Mao had said here earlier, that the DP constitution the DP management style, when he challenged him about changing the rules, he said it works for DP. I didn't understand him to mean it works for him in particular. He says it works for DP. But Honorable Mao has been on us. Why are you not changing the Electoral Commission?
Bringing electoral reforms in
Why
DP?
are you not bringing, yes. And we have been saying, no, as far as the NRM is concerned, as far as we are concerned, the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda and the laws that govern elections in Uganda, which are presided over mainly by an NRM-dominated parliament, works for us as a country, and in that respect, works for NRM as well. So why would we change? Again, I find Honorable Mao they are not coming clean, because what is really good for the goose should be good for the gander, as the adage goes. So, but you had asked me, where do I see DP going? Honorable Mao said in the coming days, coming weeks, coming months, he's going to reach out. I hope he does so. And I hope he does so with a major shift of mind and focus, because this is not the first time he's having an election like this and a fallout of this nature. If it has not worked since 2010, when he first won elections, the Sebagana, they went somewhere else, there was again friction. You remember even this DP block thing, initially was started by Honorable Mao here. DP block, which eventually mutated to People Power and now NUP, was it actually started by him. If it did not work at that time for the group he has eloquently described here as surrounded by enemies, I don't see Honorable Mao convincing that group which has disagreed with him in Mbara.
There was a time when DP was a force to reckon with. Do you still look at them as such?
When was, maybe if you leave Obote true, I don't think DP has been since that time.
Yeah, but even
I don't think
96, 2000,
no.
election.
But in 96, as Honorable Mao himself
DP was a formidable force.
Honorable Mao has described, he said, in 96, DP was not a force. If DP was a force, it would have given Dr. Semogre a big chunk of vote in the areas where DP was perceived to be dominant. And which were these areas? Buganda, Busoga, Bunyoro, and Toro. Because those are the areas by the last general election of 1980 December. Those are the areas that overwhelmingly voted for DP. Those were also the areas that were harassed by the UPC regime. But the fact that they, in 1996, 2001, they did not side with DP leaders who were standing for election means that DP lost its strength somewhere between 1980 and 1985 coup. And I think what led to DP losing was actually the cooperation of DP leaders led by Semogre joining the military junta of the Tito Kelos. I think that's what the leaders, their supporters in these areas have described. Just said, you can't trust these people. Really, to be polite probably is to say, these people are hopeless.
Do you see a splinter group now emerging out of the new rift?
I am not in the mind of the people who are contesting his leadership. If they are faint-hearted, they may look for a convenient shade. But if they want to give him a headache, I think they would do, if I were in their shoes, they would do, from a tactical point of view, come back to work with him as they bid their time.
Honorable Mao, when you become DP president, it automatically qualifies you to be a presidential candidate for the national presidency. Do you still harbor these intentions?
That was the announcement I made after the delegates conference, that the delegates conference is the primary election of the presidential flag bearer of the Democratic Party. So I am DP's presidential candidate as I talk now.
Does that suggest that you're going
It doesn't suggest.
You're resigning from the ministry to run against the presidency?
I am telling you that when you are the president of DP, you are the presidential flag bearer.
But so
it is important.
Will Mao be on the ballot come 2026?
It is important for you to let the Democratic Party manage its affairs. You watch. You're a journalist.
No, but it's very interesting for us to know.
Yes, you watch.
No,
in politics.
Why would you love to be vague about this?
I'm not vague, but do you want me to I must have at least 1 or 2 cards facing down. Isn't that my right?
No, but Simon, I don't think that's even a very fair. Well, is your question? Honorable Mao has been a presidential candidate, rather a DP president, for the last 15 years. There was a general election where he was the president general of DP, but was never a presidential candidate.
Yeah, but
in the main election.
Yes, in 2021.
Yeah, it was not. So
the cards that are facing down, I'm the only one who knows them.
We'll take a break and return.
NBS Frontline.
Yes!
Everyone has a dream this year, and it's your turn to Joga 2025 with ABSA. Switch to ABSA and make your dream a reality by applying for the ABSA salary loan. Call 0800 222 333 and let's get started. ABSA, your story matters.
This year, Mwangulanga China Olovo.
My name is Ajara Remis. I happen to win motorcycle. Today I'm very happy with Rock Boom. I won a motorcycle. So I'm very happy for them. I'm very happy for them. For you, God, thanks.
Color is back! Buy Rock Boom. Check out of the cap. What you see is what you win.
Did you know sports is a multi-billion-dollar global industry?
Uganda's produced world champions. But our potential to tap into the multi-billion-dollar industry still looks like a distant dream. What will it take to build stronger leagues, better systems, and sustainable careers for our athletes?
Cheptegei with the performance of a lifetime, the world champion, the world record holder.
How can we work together to unlock the full potential of Uganda's sports sector? For the first time ever, from the 17th to 18th of June 2025, we're bringing together administrators, athletes, coaches, club owners, fans, and policymakers to reflect, to ask the hard questions, to examine the state of Ugandan sport. Be part of the conversation. Be part of the change. The state of Ugandan sport. This June 17th and 18th, 2025. Live on NBS Sport.
Catch me howling at the moon.
Introducing the all-new GWM P300. Bring it on. Go with GWM. Exclusively distributed by Double Q. Call us on 0700 111 000. Visit our showrooms at Busega and Old Port Bell Road, Bogota.
There's a leadership call on you, eh? You wanted to do something with her. And the Spirit of God, there's a fervency He's going to use you. And there's a hand of God on you, even ministry-wise. And it's going to take you higher, and you'll have influence in youth. Hallelujah!
Watch The Power of Prophecy with Prophet Elvis Mbonyi this Saturday, 6:30 p.m. on NBS TV, Uganda.
Welcome to La Rose Royal Apartments, where Kampala's charm meets luxury living. Nestled in the heart of Nakasero, this is elegance redefined. Imagine mornings with breathtaking views and evenings of pure relaxation. From stylish two-bedroom apartments to opulent penthouses, every detail is crafted to suit your lifestyle. Live your dream with our world-class amenities. Unwind by the pool, stay active in our state-of-the-art gym, or relax in our tranquil gardens. Don't wait to live the life you deserve. Flexible payment plans and limited time offers make it easy to call La Rose home. Visit www.remaxadvisors.ug or contact Remax Advisors, the commercial agent. La Rose Royal Apartments, where luxury begins. NBS Frontline.
Welcome back. A very interesting conversation is still going on the front line. We're looking at the future of DP under Mao 4, the fourth term of Norbert Mao.
I don't know whether I've really led for 4 terms. I've been fighting most of the other terms. This may actually be my first term.
Could it be your last as well?
I never stay in one place for long.
Here you stayed for.
I'm actually surprised how long I've been around. You remember I left Parliament after 2 terms. I served in the local government for 1 term. So we now have to prepare the next generation of DP leaders also. And one of the best reasons...
Don't you think this would have been the opportunity maybe to cede space?
We had disruptors, the kind of people who showed up at the gates to express interest for leadership. What would I answer the founders of DP when I meet them?
You now come off as a lifetime president of DP.
I'm not going to apologize for doing my job and for being a strong guardian of the DP constitution.
George,
yes.
Do you look at Mao as a destructor of DP or a builder in the next 5 years?
The course of DP from Mbarara was determined by the process that led to the delegates conference. So in a way, it has been determined by how the process went. Wherever I have been going to look for votes, I went in Fort Portal, I met an old man. He told me that DP is in the hearts of men. So one of your questions was, where do I see DP? DP is in the hearts of men. And DP has proved through history that she can mobilize at any moment and take power.
Your other colleagues who contested have actually come out to say DP is literally dead. And it was finally molded by Mao and his group in Mbarara.
I am here putting on a green tie. I am DP.
So is Mao breathing life into DP, or is further strangling it?
The future, I would not want to see the future of DP through an individual, because DP is stronger than individuals. The individual leading the party can only create an environment where we can have unity and strength that can help the party to tackle the challenges of our generation.
Well, before I bring in Honorable Mao, eyebrows were raised when, on the eve of the delegates' conference, you made a pilgrimage to General Salim Saleh's place. Does it suggest that maybe he had a big influence in your election?
It is you people in the media who said he was coming to address the delegates' conference. You create a lie, then you ask me to respond to it. The meeting with General Saleh was a meeting that had been requested by some DP leaders. They wanted to meet him in his capacity as the chief coordinator of Operation Wealth Creation.
DP wanted to meet Saleh?
Yes. Of course, if you are caught up in this web of only seeing President Museveni's brother, then you cannot open your mind to the fact that he controls Operation Wealth Creation. Now, many of the DP members challenged me and they told me, you are a Minister of Justice, you are in the government. We see people getting tractors. They get a lot of inputs. They get support for their enterprises and farms. People are getting cows. When are we also going to get it? So I told them, you'll go and have an opportunity to have a conversation with him. Then I requested that he meets them, and he agreed. But because...
Didn't you find the coincidence rather ugly, given the timing?
I don't think that there's anything wrong with meeting anybody for purposes that are well stated. As a matter of fact, there are those who said that it was a bad thing for my electoral prospects in Mbarara. But those who met him were pleased that he was very open with them about what they need to do. And there will be follow-up meetings. generally, we really don't want this pressure cooker kind of narrative in Uganda to make it appear that tomorrow the country is going to explode. You can meet anybody. Look at the way we conduct ourselves even in parliament. People are not talking to each other. We must build bridges, really. It wasn't a coincidence, and there are those who didn't want to come for the meeting didn't come. But I can tell you, I am in government, and you'd be shocked the kind of people who meet General Saleh. They're the kind of people who unleash venom against the government, but they meet him and they talk. So why do you have to deceive people that you are not talking? I mean, even Nancy Pelosi used to go and meet Trump. The question is, what are you talking about? I think that is, in Makerere, I led a strike. It didn't stop me from making a phone call to State House to reach out to the president of Uganda, who we were blaming for the policies we were resisting. I think there's a problem of political culture in Uganda. So if the likes of Ugandans who are radical and extreme and hate mongers, if they want to make Mao a martyr, I welcome it. But we cannot go on the way we are going, Simon.
Well, thank you. Word is out there that today DP is more of an appendage to the NRM. Do you think, as we speak with Mao now in his fourth term?
That appendage was not created by Honorable Mao. And there is no single government, to the best of my knowledge, where DP leaders have not entered into a working relationship with the reigning government. That area of ours of Tororo, it was booked then. The first elections, the election that was won by self-government of Ben, the elections of 1962 that brought independence, DP won that Bukedi, including what is now West Budama, South and Central. DP was the dominant there. Our first MP, may he soul rest in eternal peace, James Ochola Ondoa, who was killed by Amin in 1972, was our first MP on a DP ticket. He was among the first DP members of parliament to cross in 1964. And by that act, Obote made him Minister for Regional Government.
So the DP mischief has been here forever.
And then the Batarengayas followed later, I think around the same season, and many others. You do remember, or you may not remember, en mass crossing of DP members of parliament in Obote won, except I think somebody from DP, from Bacholi, and Muzei Byanyima, Boniface. As soon as Amin overthrew Obote, the first people to welcome him and to join his government, including being in the cabinet, were DP leaders. Recently, the NRM, the bulk of the NRM first ministers in 86
60%
were former DP leader, then reigning DP leaders in office, but also former members of parliament.
So DP is the breeding ground for NRM.
Honorable Sendaura, Muzei Kajura, Honorable the late Bamunanika, Skisaba Mugero, and many others. When we went for CA, 1993-94, you remember, Semogro actually convened a press conference just by the virtue of former DP members winning the first LC elections and the expansion of NRC in 1989, he said DP had won because former prominent DP leaders won LC5 and one seat in the NRC in February 1989, which was the interim parliament. Many of them, I think 96%, when Simogore walked out in October 1996, they never walked out with him. They remained in NRM. And many of them have stayed subsequent to that, except Sibana Kizito. I think even his young brother, John Kawanga, simply retired from politics.
No, he was beaten in a race.
No, I'm saying, yeah, when you are beaten, but he has never been active again, to the best of my knowledge, in the DP politics in Basaka there or any other part of the country. So, I think it is not fair to accuse just Mao for bringing DP into another formation. I think there are many things that are happening to DP and to other political parties which you cannot just attribute it to.
So do you look at Mao as a messiah for DP
I don't think he's a messiah, but he's trying within his ability to recreate a political party that has not had, in my view, a good grounding, a good organization, and good leadership, because those are the three things that make an organization.
Isn't it in futility?
Grounding, organizational capacity, ability, and leadership. Would you also accuse Mao, Honorable Mao, of what is happening in FDC, in NOP?
What is happening?
As a result of lack of the three things I'm talking about, good grounding, what are the issues that make you come up as an organization? How are you organized, or how are you organizing? And how are you leading? That leads to the fallout you are seeing. The fallout you have seen in FDC, the fallout you have seen in FDC, in NOP, the fallout you are seeing in DP. And Honorable Mao seems to be touching one aspect of that issue. If you are obsessed only with hate mongering of either Bote or Museveni, you move away from the real issues and you get swept away. Now, the things you are hankering on, even if General Saleh had been invited
to
Mbarara to address delegates, for me I would not find that strange, because if you look at different countries, different political parties, actually they intend to invite people who are outside their political parties, people who are coming to give them another view, how the world sees your party, how the world sees your direction.
Yeah, but in terms of perception.
Usually people who give a keynote speech at the inauguration, at the delegates conference of parties, they are not members of that party. Even locally here, go and check who gave the speech for the Alliance for National Transformation of the Mutus at Conference Center. Who gave for NOP? Even recently, didn't they invite, was it Matembe or somebody? And much later, I think I even saw there when we are Nyima. So, if you want the outside view, you can't invite your own. I think leaders are not supposed to lead just according to the perception of your members, of your followers, because generally you are supposed to be a little bit above your followers. Well, and therefore you should give them direction. If no, just wait. If in the times, Honorable Mao's interaction with General Saleh, and all of us, those of us have interacted with him, he's such a forthright person, particularly when it comes to economic upliftment.
Yeah, but you care about perception. The general perception.
You manage that perception. Let me give you another example. If President Museveni was just leading this NRM and this country just according to perception of the members of NRM, we would have no journey in NRM. You know the bouts we have had with Honorable Mau on these debates, with Beatrice Anywa, with Olive Kamia. You remember when Olive Kamia was saying, the problem of this country is too much power in the presidency. The president knows our perception, knows our feeling, but has brought them to work, and I think they have helped in just not just consolidating NRM, but also governance in the country. So if you just go by the sentiments, by the perception of your followers, you're in real trouble. So I think Mao inviting Jerusalem, I have no issues with it.
Honorable Mao,
He can manage the
before I
perception
come
of
to
his members.
George, there is now a new rift that's emerged in the party and a new wave of defiance. You're looking at the likes of Honorable Lulume describing DP as dead. Lumu re-echoed the same sentiment. Does it suggest to you that you have a lot on your platter to deal with in crushing this new force?
We don't need to crush them. The delegates have spoken. And really, if democracy is majority rule, then this sense of entitlement by a minority have their power, but the power must flow into the broader stream. Now, to think you can have a veto, that's the kind of arrogance we are going to deal with. So the new leadership will lead DP, and we shall put a sign outside, do not disturb.
With the kind of blackmail that they have inflicted on the party, do you think they would still qualify to be members in the tape echelons of the party?
We are willing to reach out to them and even support them to win parliamentary seats. But if not, they have to know that they also have their individual political careers to think about. It's really not about Mao. So this is going to be a different kind of term, because I won for the simple reason that I told the new generation of DP leaders that I'm going to fight the last battle. By the time I hand over the party, I want to have the scars on my body. I don't want the scars on the party.
Is this your last term?
Once again, I'll tell you that I'm preparing the next generation. You have...
is this your last?
You have at least 52 front lines. You can choose any of them to ask me that question, and I'll answer it. Just watch. I do not want questions that distract. That is this your last term? I don't think that's really the most important question. I said it to the delegates that I wouldn't want to continue leading DP beyond this term. Isn't that enough?
How painful is it for you to call Mao your president when you know he won irregularly?
That is a very subjective question, and it brings us into relativism. Going by how the events were unfolding, the reasons for my joining DP are so stronger than the challenges that I may see within the party.
Is this the DP you joined, or it's now a different DP?
The DP I joined,
vis-a-vis the one you're in now,
I see challenges, and I look forward to how we can collectively find solutions.
How different is the DP you joined from the DP there is now?
As an opposition party that has strengths in constitutionalism, democracy, as a political party that has been at the forefront of electoral reforms, our delegates conference was an opportunity to show the country what good electoral processes mean. Because as opposition parties, we cannot only talk. There comes the time when we have to show. And in that regard, I think we still have areas of improvement.
Mr. Traitor, you were upset by everything that went on, including your exclusion, your ejection from the race. But technically, you had not been endorsed or recommended by your branch. Is that true?
I was recommended by the branch chairperson, and when I was presenting my papers, I asked, am I okay? Is everything okay? I was told, this is okay. So I went to look for votes, and when the day of voting came, my name did not appear. My issue is...
What if you were on the ballot? Do you think you'd have maneuvered and won?
I had done... The reason why I think I didn't appear was because there was a realization that I was going to win. But to personalize my not being on the ballot...
Are you saying when you discovered your name was not on the list of the candidates for the office, you had the registered form, they did not explain to you why your name was not on the list? Or didn't you ask, why is my name missing?
Now, when the list was read out, I went to the person who was managing. I asked, what can you tell me the reason why I am not? Then he somehow didn't give me anything. He just somehow put me aside. So it was in a way painful that my interventions to get internal redress were not adhered to.
Well, thank you. We have to cross to AfroMobile, our audience on AfroMobile. Here we come now.
NBS Frontline.